You're watching Day or Night X. X is for exotics, and as requested, I will be on Wednesdays doing Hump Day with Day or Night X. Every Wednesday, different exotic animal video. Sometimes it'd be vlogs, sometimes it'd be features just like this one. This one, we're just gonna check out my piebald female who I got from Dynasty Reptiles. This is one of my favorite ball pythons in my collection. I am gonna go ahead and say it actually is my favorite ball python in my collection. If you've been following my channel for the past few years, you know I am a piebald, albino, and blue-eyed leucistic nut job. I have 3 of those. I wish my blue-eyed leucistic was a female, but I have one as a male. I'll take it. But having a piebald female in my collection was a must. This is one of the ball pythons. If I had no other ball python in my collection, this would be the one that I would always keep because it's by far the most beautiful. What's interesting about this animal, as you see this footage, is that she's actually in shed. She went really super blue the other day and she started a semi shed. So right now she is actually having a little bit of a shed issue. If you look at her closer, you can see that her head still has some shed on her. Her eyes are a little bit blue, and that's because she still has some shedding to do. She started shedding underneath her belly. When I went to check on her, she had tipped over a water dish, and I decided to get her out, and she was actually looking very beautiful, even in shed. So I went ahead and filmed her. So she's actually partially in shed here. It's really hard to tell where the shed starts and ends because of the white on her. Most of the shed that she's gotten off is on her belly, and the rest of it is actually still on top of her. So she's gonna probably finish up shedding before this video actually is even up and you're watching it with your own eyeballs. She is most likely done, completely shed out, and I may even do an update on her completely out of shed. She has not added many more freckles on her as she has in the past. When I first got her, she had no freckles on her at all. There was no freckles at all, and then every shed she would add at least 1 or 2. Over the past few sheds, I haven't noticed any new ones really. The only thing I've noticed, if you look on her neck, you can see that she's starting to rust up a little bit. I'll call it quote unquote rust up. Around her neck area, you can see some of the bronze that it used to be just super orange and yellow. Now she's starting to add some silverish bronze colors to her, which is nice because it adds a nice diversity to her. It's one of the things that I like about her the most, is that she has a ton of color on her, ranging in a whole bunch of different colors, and orange seems to be the one that pops up more. Now she did have a lot more red on her. Even I would say about 6 months ago, a lot of the really orange spots you see were actually red, were more of a red orange. Now they're just an orange. So the older she's getting, she's starting to dull out some of those colors. A lot of the bright yellows that are on her are now starting to turn into a goldish color. A lot of the gold is starting to turn bronze. And what's weird though is that, as you see here, if you look very carefully, you can clearly see she still has some shed on her, because her head is a midnight ebony black, and right now it looks like a little bit of a dull brown, and that's because of the shed on her head. She actually has some of the darkest blacks that I've seen on some piebalds, especially on her head. It is very, very distinct. But the yellow on her face, going across her eyes there, that yellow contrasting with the black kind of made it seem like it was actually darker than it actually was, the black I'm talking about. Now that yellow is actually starting to fade just a little bit. It's actually getting lighter, and it was a much more vivid yellow, and the patch on her head has always been there, but it is actually starting to fade just a little bit as well, which is a sign of age. She's starting to get big. She's a very good eater. I have to give her that. I have had no issues with her with eating at all. She's actually very, very greedy, and she actually ate while she was in shed. That's I mean, most of my ball pythons her age, they refuse to eat when they're in shed, and especially like my blue-eyed leucistic, he just will not eat anything until he is shed out, and then he'll eat. She doesn't give a damn. She'll eat whenever, even if she's in the process of shedding. She's gonna take down a meal, and I love that about her. She's one of the more curious ball pythons in my collection, and this is a good example of what a ball python, in my opinion, makes as a good pet, because she's not aggressive at all. She's a little bit spooky. She'll get spooked real easily and she'll just take off. But outside of that, she will rest in your hand and she will not move. if you just hold it. She loves to be held. She does not like being inside of her enclosure too much. She's one of the ones, whenever I come in, she's always looking to get out, and I usually get her out every day. Her rack that I keep her in is actually upstairs. I keep all of my favorite ball pythons upstairs outside of the basement, because the basement sometimes, especially this time of year with spring around the corner, you have a lot of pests that come out, and I never liked having them down there. In a sense, I'm kind of quarantined some of my favorite ones. And in my rack, I have to do a video on it at some point. There's a rack I have upstairs that has my blue aleucistic in it, my banana spider, my albino, my black fire head orange ghost male, my spark male, and my pastavi female. And I keep them all upstairs, and I'm partial to them for some reason. They're the smaller ones, some of the smaller ones, but they're also one of the more expensive bunch in my collection, obviously, especially with the blue aleucistic, the albino, the banana spider, and this piebald. I like to have them upstairs, keep an eye on them at all times, and I can keep better temperature checks on them. I mean, the temperature up here is a lot more ideal for that rack. So hope you guys enjoyed this one. I'll see you on the next one. Take care.